Hello, everyone. I'm going to give it a little more time to let a few others join, and we'll get started in a few moments. I do see that we do have providers still joining the call, so I'm going to give it just a couple more minutes and we'll get started no later than 5 after 3. So just hold out. Thank you so much. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. You are joining the OASAS SAPT Supplemental Grant Information Session. And my name is Deborah Davis. I'm the Associate Commissioner for the Division of Fiscal Administration at OASAS. And I am joined by some panelists who either work with me to help coordinate the SAPT supplemental grants on my staff, or they are part of our subject matter experts that are in our different divisions who help us create these opportunities. So I'm going to turn it over to them to introduce themselves. L'Oreal on my staff, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is L'Oreal Aldi, and I'm the project director over the SAPT grant.
Karen? You're on mute, Karen.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Hi, my name is Karen Stacker. I'm the Director of Contracts and Procurement, and I'm responsible for the staff that's creating the contracts to get you your money.
Excellent. And Esteban.
Good afternoon, everyone. Esteban Ramos, Director of our Housing Bureau.
Okay, thank you very much to my panelists. And next slide, please. So before we get started, I do have a few housekeeping things. These are the traditional things. Your lines have been muted, so to share any comments that you might have during the presentation, you can use the chat function. Also, we will at the end ask for questions, and that could be please place your questions into the Q&A section. It'll be easier for us to track them that way and provide answers. And any unanswered questions from today's meeting, along with the answered questions, will be sent in a follow-up email. And also this WebEx is being recorded. So next slide, please. Okay, our agenda is that we are going to give you a little update on what's been happening with the supplemental grants. We will also then provide you an update on our request for approval process and applications and our procurement process, as well as contracting. We've made some changes that were based on feedback we got from our April 8th meeting, and some of those changes we implemented immediately, and we just wanted to, so you might have already felt them, but just to make sure everyone knows about them, we wanted to share them. Next, we did have an Executive Order 16 come out, and we will talk about what that's about and the impacts of that to our procurement process. Next, we'll talk about what's coming up next for webinars, and then we'll do our Q&A session. So next slide, please. Okay. So basically, I just want to say we've been very busy, and thank you very much, because it's related to your responses to our the opportunities that we've made available. So when I spoke to you back on April 8th, at that time, we had completed reviewing and awarding 309 budgets out of 631 at that time, and that represented 48.9%. Now we have increased, so the list of opportunities has grown from the last presentation to include medication delivery services, mobile medication units, transitional safety units, so now there were 681 budgets that needed to be reviewed, approved, and sent out as award letters. They represented $44.9 million. So out of 681, budgets to be awarded, we have awarded 467. So we are now up to nearly 69% in the month's time. So we are excited that we continue to move forward and release more funding to you. The obligated funds have grown to be $33.3 million, and the total advances and payments that have gone out the door is $9 million, almost $9.4 million. So that's where we are to date, but there's more. Next slide, please. In addition, we are completing the process of reviewing another 224 budgets. We are very close. We have an issue because we can't release them until we fulfill what is come upon us as the Executive Order 16, which we will talk about in the next few slides. So, more to come on that, but just to say that in order for us to make these awards and send out award letters, we need your help in fulfilling the form that we'll be sending for the EO 16. So we'll talk about that more. And then of course we have some additional, additional awards too in that says TBD on this slide. They too are very close. But again, we're being held up a little bit with EO 16. So that came out at the beginning of March, or mid-March, let's say, and took a bit to just get that across to all the state agencies, have all the state agencies make a process. And so we're implementing that process. So that's where we are. And we're very excited to move, forward on these awards. Next slide, please. So at this point, I am going to turn it over to Karen Stackrow so she can talk about the processes that have changed, and then she will go into the EO16 changes as well. So Karen.
Thank you, Debbie. So as Debbie mentioned, we've listened to what you've proposed as some suggestions, and we've tried to make some changes where we can. And there's a couple that we have been able to do. For future RFAs, we will be allowing email submissions. The new address will be COVID funds applications at oasas.ny.gov, and that will be in the solicitation document, so don't worry about remembering that. And each RFA will detail a specific email subject line that will be used so that we can make sure that we keep them all. If we have more than one out there, that we can keep track of which one you're responding to. And if you're responding to more than one, that we make sure that we capture your applications for both of them. The second thing that we did is we are now allowing submission of your contracts via email. And again, these would go to the COVID funds at oasas.ny.gov email where you've been sending stuff. Only the applications will go to that other email address. Original signature still must be the wet signature, but then they can be scanned and emailed back to us. The stipulation is that the original document must be maintained at your facility and be able to be produced upon request for 10 years. So if you want to sign it and scan it back, we can do that. Hopefully that will speed up, and it has seemed to have, helped us in getting the contract process done quicker. The third thing that we did was attachment A1, sorry. So attachment A1 is the program specific terms and conditions. We made some modifications to this. So the section that requested that the designated contact information be put on that attachment by you, we've removed this. As we determined that information, we already have that information through other sources, specifically the budgets that you're submitting anyway. So it seemed like it was just a duplicative exercise we were making you go through and putting that on the A1 form. The other thing we did is there are individual certifications that were required related to related organization parties, certification there, and vendor assurance of no conflict of interest or detrimental effect. So those sections have now been incorporated into the signing of the agreement, so there's no need to fill out and sign those sections separately. So those are the three things that we've been able to do so far. Next slide, please. So as Debbie mentioned before, back on March 17th, 2022, the governor issued executive order number 16. This executive order directs state agencies to refrain from entering into any new contract or renewing any existing contract with an entity conducting business operations in Russia. So what this has meant is that in order to comply with this executive order, we're now required to have you complete a certification form where you must indicate whether you conduct business operations in Russia. And we need to review these certifications to determine if we can enter into the contract with you. We've begun to do that by sending out a bunch of emails, and most of you probably have gotten at least one, but we wanted to advise you that we are sending out emails to obtain these certifications, but depending on how many initiatives you've applied for and the stages that you're in, you may be getting multiple emails. You only need to respond to one. Once we get a response and we get the form back, we're saving them in a shared spot so that all the different subject matter experts and people working on the different initiatives can go and look to see that we have that form that you need, because we can't complete any new contract or complete any review of an application until we ensure that we have those forms and that we've reviewed them. And so for future initiatives, you'll be asked to complete the certification either as part of responding to the RFA, they'll be included right in the RFA document, the form to fill out, or where we're doing initiatives where it's not resulting from an RFA, you'll be asked to submit the form when you're submitting your budget and your scope of work and whatever else is needed for that individual initiative.
Thank you very much, Karen. And I did want to just say that we have some initiatives that were listed on my previous slides, you know, telehealth and care coordination and transportation. And so some of them are very close to us being able to award, but we can't until we get your executive order 16. So many providers have been, you know, many providers who applied for those or who were in discussions for those, you have been sent a form. Please get it back to us as soon as possible so that we can make this award, because we truly are held up now, because, you know, it is part of the executive order that, you know, in the solicitation process in the beginning, we have to get this before we can give out awards. So we appreciate that, you know, your ability to respond to this as quickly as you possibly can. And obviously we're here for questions as well. So thank you, Karen, again. Next slide, please. So the next webinar we thought, and I know I mentioned this last time, but I think it's even more appropriate now, that we will have a number of different initiatives being awarded very shortly once we clear up the EO16 certification. And I think it would be a real appropriate time to have a webinar that reviews how to fill out your expense report. We refer to it as the expense report at OASAS. You know, I know others have, I've heard people say voucher or claim, but basically it is the way that you will get reimbursed on your expenses. And so, you know, in 2 weeks' time, we will, you know, send out an announcement and have a webinar on this process. And, you know, we'll try to use some, you know, real live examples. So hopefully that will be helpful to you while you are starting to receive your funding. So that's that. Next slide, please. So we are right at the question and answer time. So without further ado, we'll take a look at if you have any questions. Let's see. Okay, that's a great question. Thank you, Dan. What if we haven't received the EO16 form about Russia? How can we request it? Is there someplace we can download it? That's a great question. And, you know, I think what we should do is put it, number one, on our website. So we'll make it available on the SAPT Supplemental Grant website. That's number one. And we will include that website link in our follow-up to this presentation when we send out our Q&As, and we'll send out a link to this taped presentation. We'll send a link to where you can get the form. But just to share with you, because we are sort of in parallel processes, right? So if you, let's say you already have a contract from us, you don't need immediately an EO16. It would depend on when we made the contract, according to the EO16. So we are assessing that. So people who have a contract will probably get a notification for an EO16 last. The more relevant and first order are people who are providers who are about to be awarded. So those that are in the running or who have applied for our most recent initiatives that we're waiting to award, they have received emails for an EO16. If you think you are one of those, I would send, you know, you could send a question to the COVID mailbox, and somebody, once again, I guess L'Oreal will sign you up to put that in the, if you wouldn't mind, can you type it in the Q&A? Are you able to type in the Q&A?
Sorry, I was muted. I put the link to it in there.
Oh, okay. In the Q&A or then chat?
It's in the Q&A, but I can put it in the chat.
No, it's Q&A. I think it's fine. Thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the website there for the COVID funds mailbox is there. You can send the question. Please include your provider number in the subject line. And you can put EO16 in the subject line as well, and we'll flag that and be able to send you an answer, and you'll get it 2 ways. The other part of EO16 is if you had just gotten an award letter recently. So that affects Esteban because his transitional safety units got award letters. So they had already gotten past the process before we implemented changes. And so his group also received EO16s to fill out. And I know that they're working on getting them in and they're close. And then, we have a group of providers that already received their contracts and we're waiting for them to be signed back. And so we'll have to send them EO16s as well. So everyone is in a process, and that's why Karen was saying you might get sent it twice. Go ahead and fill it out twice, or if you get 2 requests at the same time, you do only have to fill it out once. But going forward, once we are cleared up in all the areas of where we are in our process, every new solicitation, you will fill it out. And that will be the only time you fill it out. So hopefully I gave you a really very informed answer without confusing people, but I will look and see if there are more questions. Can you share us your voucher template, please? Yes, so for every initiative that's been awarded, the expense report template is on our website. So I will again include that when we have our follow-up email with the Q&As, but it is on the website. And we will obviously have one in the next webinar. If, however, you have a contract and you're concerned and you want to see one right away and you feel like you haven't gotten it, please send that to the COVID funds mailbox with your provider number, your contract number, and your question, and we will get back to you specifically. I don't want you to feel put off, but if you don't have, a contract yet, then you can wait for our responses to send you to the links and also for our training, then that would be fine too. Okay, let's see. My organization received funding for both workforce and stabilization. For both grants, there is a recruitment and retention sheet within the expense report. For the workforce development, this makes sense as some of the items that can be spent for this grant is directly related to recruitment and retention. In the stabilization, however, we were using the funding to assist with payroll expenses, but the workbook sheet is still called recruitment and retention. Is this just an oversight? I believe that actually, and that's a great question, and it can be confusing. I believe that stabilization did allow for recruitment and retention as well with certain restrictions. And one of the restrictions was if you got recruitment and retention in the workforce one, you couldn't use it for the same purpose in the stabilization one. So it wasn't by mistake. But if you are confused in any way, if you've been receiving reimbursement on how you're filling it out, then you're fine. But again, if you have a specific question, I think you could send that to the COVID funds mailbox as well. Put your, provider number, your contract number, and then, and your question obviously in the body of the email, and we can, just make it more clear for you, because I can totally understand. Those had a lot of offerings, and so getting through them, but I would say kudos to you because you got through getting the budget filled out, and it sounds like you're getting money, so that's good. With a vouchering seminar, discuss how to report on the CFR. That will not be discussed, but if that is something as a follow-up webinar, I think that's an excellent idea. So, and I will look and see if we think we're going to take, a full hour on the expense report and see if we think we could fit in the CFR. So thank you for that suggestion. That's excellent. It wasn't our intention, but we'll look at it. And if not, we'll do a CFR one too. So just, more on the expense report, just really want to say, we will share it. It is on the website, and I don't have one to share right now, but we will be sharing it. So we will send one. Maybe we can even send it in our follow-up email as an example, plus send you to the links of where they are. Let's see. My scroll thing keeps going to the beginning, so I apologize. I have to keep doing it. I don't know why it does that. Okay. So the question's been asked if we have mentioned when the letters and the contracts are going out, and no, that's fine, because I know people are joining at different times, and this really is the biggest reason why we are having this. Right now, award letters are held up because anyone who has applied, or has been part of a solicitation for an initiative that has not received an award letter, we can't send the award letter until you fill out the EO16 form. So that is what the holdup is. We are, we sent them out to all applicants, and potential awardees, and we're waiting for them all to come back. And once your award letter is sent to you, then you can start spending. It is a recognition that you are, that we have approved your budget or your, application, and you can start spending. Soon after, you will receive, the contract. I think we can be 2 weeks to a month behind, but we are getting, that shorter time frame is getting shorter and shorter, as you could see from the earlier slides, that we are, catching up on making those contracts. But we definitely want to be timely with the award letters. But then came EO16, so now we're on a holding pattern until we get everyone's EO16 certification form back. A question was, all grants will also be reported in the CFR. And yes, supplemental grants will be reported. I'm new, and I know there's, I think there was something about 2 years related to how that is being reported. So I will send that information in our question and answer, and apologies that I don't have that information, readily available. I don't see any other questions, but I will wait to see if there's anything else. It seems like the expense report webinar will be a really good one to provide, so I am excited to bring that to you. And I'm also excited that we, last time there were, things that were requested, and we were able to make those changes and bring them to you, and timely enough. The expense report seemed to be a big question, and so we'll definitely make that webinar for you, and the CFR question and answer too. That we'll make sure that we have that as well. So really appreciate that feedback, and give us those ideas for us to work together to continue to move this all forward. Because, like I said in the April 8th, if you guys weren't there, this is a huge undertaking on both sides, and we all are challenged by not having enough workforce, and finding workforce. I had shared that we had 3 people doing the contracts, and I had hoped that in a month's time I'd have 3 more, but it turns out I don't yet. I did get to hire 2 more staff. They're not here yet, and we're hoping to bring on another 2. But so this increase in our capacity, that I reported on earlier slides, is really still with the same 3. So, we are still working very, very, hard to, get these all out. And then we hit the stumbling block with the EO16, so we can't get the awards out. Again, in another month's time, when I give an update on statistically how we're doing, we'll have those new staff and hopefully we'll be, right current, and there won't be a lag between getting your award letters and your contracts, or not much of a lag. So, let's see, any questions? So, a question's been asked that they have received funding for this fiscal year. And this fiscal year, is the April 1st, 2022 to March 31st, 2023. And yes, there will be more and, more initiatives being released for people to apply to in this state fiscal year. I think that's my last question at the moment. So anybody have any good jokes? I appreciate this time and let's see, I did get another. This little flaw in how this works, it jumps. So yes, it seems all the applications were combined into one contract. We did see 3 separate applications. Right. So with the earlier initiatives, we executed one master contract, and then we were doing amendments. And now we are executing an individual contract for every time that you submit a budget to a solicitation for an initiative. The amendments seem to be a little confusing, and it held up the process a little bit. So this way, when we made the change, we were able to execute contracts for each initiative or each budget that you submitted, and we could do it through the email and just get it done. So, and not wait for other things to happen that would be required for amendments. So, so it's changed a little bit. So some providers will have a master contract with amendments that are attached to that master contract. And that's how you're paying on all of that related to that contract number. And then going forward, you will have other individual contracts. So I hope that, all the mothers, the stepmoms, the aunts, the grandmas, the foster care parents, the moms, and all the women that take part in nurturing, children. I hope that you had a really nice, happy Mother's Day weekend. It was beautiful weather. We are looking to maybe have beautiful weather with a little rain, I guess, sprinkled in for this weekend. But I hope that everyone has a really wonderful weekend, and it looks like, spring is finally here. Fingers crossed. But I wish you a happy and healthy and, safe, time. And I look forward to our next call. But I'll end it here. You get a half an hour back of your time, or a little less than half an hour. But, and we will, send you question and answers and those links related to these questions. So thank you to Esteban and to my panelists for making this a really good, comprehensive presentation, because I couldn't have done it by myself. And everyone take care.
Thanks, you too.